virtual. First of all, I would like to say welcome to Mr. Triandika Kurniawan, Mr. Muhammad Triandika Kurniawan, Bachelor of Science and Master of Art as the Vice Rector of Universitas Bakrie. I welcome Mr. Rusydi Khairul as the CEO of Reactor School. And as I can see on the screen, ada Pak Rustam, Pak Budianto Ontowirjo, all staff and all distinguished participants. I'm pleased to welcome you all here. All right, without further ado, now to begin, we will play video company profile of Bakrie University. Please have a look and enjoy.
Through engagement with industries and experiential learning methods. Berawal dari Bakrie School of Management yang didirikan pada tahun 2006, Universitas Bakrie resmi bertransformasi menjadi salah satu universitas di Indonesia di tahun 2010 dengan 10 program studi. Saat ini, Universitas Bakrie telah memiliki Magister Manajemen Program, Double Degree Program MBA, dan Dual Degree Program of Bachelor. Kerjasama internasional yang mapan juga terjalin dengan puluhan institusi luar negeri, telah dituangkan melalui Double Degree Program, Student Exchange, dan juga Collaboration Research. Transformasi besar satu dekade yang telah berhasil membawa Universitas Bakrie di tahun 2021 sebagai perguruan tinggi swasta kedua terbaik se-Indonesia. Universitas Bakrie berhasil meraih peringkat ke-138 dari 5.116 affiliation yang tercatat dalam database Scientific and Technology Index, ditandai oleh keberhasilan para dosen dalam meraih pendanaan penelitian nasional dan World Research Grant dari pemerintah Indonesia.
Untuk meningkatkan daya saing bangsa, kelompok usaha Bakrie mendukung penuh Universitas Bakrie di dalam proses perkuliahan, penelitian, dan inovasi. Melalui kolaborasi yang erat, bersama-sama kami siap menghasilkan sumber daya manusia yang unggul.
Sebagai industrial university yang menerapkan metode experiential learning, Universitas Bakrie memiliki jaringan kerjasama dengan berbagai instansi, universitas, dan berbagai sektor industri dari dalam dan luar negeri. Mahasiswa tidak hanya akan berinteraksi dengan para pengajar, tetapi juga dengan para tokoh nasional dan internasional, praktisi, serta para CEO dan jajaran direksi di dalam kelompok usaha Bakrie.
Saya memilih Universitas Bakrie karena dihadapkan dengan dua pilihan, apakah mau menjadi seorang followers atau menjadi seorang leaders. Dan saya memilih untuk menjadi seorang leaders. Universitas Bakrie membekali saya kualitas pendidikan yang luar biasa dari para dosen. Dan ini yang menjadikan saya seorang entrepreneur sejati.
Berlokasi di lingkungan yang sangat strategis, terletak di epicentrum kota Jakarta, semakin meningkatkan mobilitas dan kesempatan para mahasiswa untuk merasakan pengalaman langsung berinteraksi dengan beragam stakeholders. Universitas Bakrie juga menunjang pembentukan karakter dengan nilai profesional, caring, dan inovatif. Dengan unit kegiatan mahasiswa yang mengasah keterampilan mahasiswa untuk mengikuti kompetisi pada tingkat lokal, nasional, maupun internasional.
Pendidikan yang berkualitas dan menghasilkan para lulusan yang memiliki jiwa kewirausahaan dan inovator yang kreatif tanpa batasan bisa memimpin lapangan pekerjaan di dalam negeri maupun di luar negeri hanya bisa didapatkan di Universitas Bakrie.
Didasari cita-cita membentuk SDM yang unggul, Universitas Bakrie merupakan ekosistem akademik yang mendukung setiap mahasiswanya untuk terus meraih berbagai prestasi dan siap mengantarkan untuk menciptakan inovasi serta solusi bagi Indonesia dan dunia. Universitas Bakrie, experience the real things.
Sorry. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Mr. Muhammad Triandika Kurniawan to deliver his remarks. Time is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Pak Rusydi and our fellow from Reactor, and also thank you very much for Pak Wahyudi David as a chair of Universitas Bakrie Innovation Center and the team for organizing this event. Actually, this event is very important for Universitas Bakrie because in part of our curriculum and our vision to implement the link and match, to increase the quality of link and match between higher education and industry, we try to equip our students with the entrepreneur skill, and hopefully by having partnership with Reactor, it can boost not only our student, but also hopefully it can give impact, yeah, for the further collaboration between higher education and also industry sector. So on behalf of Universitas Bakrie, because Bu Rector at the moment also still on the meeting, I would like to give high appreciation for Reactor for willingness and also effort to build a partnership with Bakrie University, and also hopefully this MOU not stop here. We can create a more variative program, and we have to make sure that this partnership can sustainable, and not only by creating this webinar, but also after the pandemic, hopefully we can do a visit, yeah, either to Singapore or to Jakarta, and also we can scale up the engagement, yeah, between our student and also fellow in Reactor. Once again, thank you very much for Pak Rusydi and Reactor team. We are very happy and welcoming this great partnership, and we are looking forward for further collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andika, for your remarks. Next, allow me to invite also our speaker and our distinguished guest, Mr. Rusydi Khairul, as the CEO of Reactor School. Please welcome, sir.
Assalamualaikum. Yang amat berhormat Ibu Profesor Sofia, Bapak Muhammad Triandika, Bapak Dr. Wahyudi David, Bapak Rustam. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera kepada bapak-bapak dan ibu-ibu, guru-guru, teman-teman mahasiswa. Terima kasih. It gives me great honor to be here this morning, and I'd like to give my sincere thanks to Ibu Professor Sofia, Bapak Andika, Bapak Wahyudi, and the management team of Bakrie for the warm reception. Since 2013, Reactor has worked with over 200 high schools and universities across the Asia-Pacific region, including Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, and the Hong Kong SAR. We're honored to be here today to be able to partner with Bakrie and to co-create the entrepreneurship ecosystem on campus. I'm very appreciative and humbled by this opportunity to bridge our two organizations, and we look forward to working with the staff, students, and the undergraduates of Bakrie. Entrepreneurship is a very important tool in society. This is because it solves problems, designs solutions, creates jobs, and helps with social mobility. We have this opportunity to use technology as a force for good. We can build startups to help with agri-tech and food security. We can build startups in edutech and help students access quality education. And we can build startups in healthcare so that families and patients can get a better quality of life. This is why I'm excited to work with the university, her staff, and her students. Collectively, we can create impact that will last generations through the startups that we create. At Reactor, we help to develop students along 3 pathways. The first pathway are students who want to be founders at their own startup. The second pathway are students who want to be early employees in a tech company. And the third pathway are students who want to be investment analysts at venture capital firms. The tagline of Universitas Bakrie is to experience the real things. This is extremely forward-thinking and will ensure that UB Bakrie and her students succeed well into the future. And as Mr. Nirwan Dermawan Bakrie once said, education is the key to the progress of a nation. And with good education, we can prepare Indonesia's young generation to be able to compete with the rest of the world. Universitas Bakrie implements the experiential learning method, a learning method in which students experience direct involvement in the corporate and business world through real cases and real practices in a real business environment. Reactor hopes to add to this and to complement this in terms of the world-class pedagogy that University Bakrie employs. We stand ready to support your faculty, your current students, your alumni, and your future startups. We look forward to working with the management team of UB Bakrie in organizing a range of activities, including entrepreneurship bootcamps, pre-incubator programs, professional development for educators, and hopefully, when travel reopens smoothly, to invite your students and your staff to come visit us here in Singapore. I sincerely thank everyone for this partnership and this opportunity to work together, and may we benefit the students and the youth of UB Bakrie and Indonesia. Thank you very much. Sekian dan terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rusydi Khairul, for your beautiful remarks. Move on to the next agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, it's MOU celebration between Universitas Bakrie and Rector School. I think the committee will display a soft copy of the Memorandum of Understanding, and you can watch it on your screen. All right, as stated in this MOU, the purpose of this MOU is to develop academic and educational cooperations and to promote mutual understanding between the two parties, and hopefully through this collaboration, it will bring mutual benefit and brings good impact and brings good result for the two parties. Yeah, I think it's play on your screen. That's MOU between Universitas Bakrie and Reactor School. Okay, now I would like to ask to all participants to open your camera. We will take a picture. Yeah, the committee will take a screenshot. So please open your camera, and the committee will take a screenshot and capture this special moment. Udah semua ya? All right, you guys can do this. I mean, like me, it's like your hands put together and smile and look at the camera, and please hold on for a moment. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Pak Rusdi.
Very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now I think we move on to the next agenda. I would like to pass the floor to our moderator, Mr. Wahyudi David. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Grace. This is a great opportunity to us to listen more about the business incubators, and what is the potentials from rector schools. Before we start, I would like to explain about our speakers. Khairul Rusydi lives in intersection of technology, youth development, and also entrepreneurship educations. A previous enterprise in Singapore, Mr. Rusydi consult for SMEs in the domain of human capital development and management systems. He also previously served a board of various youth and development organizations, including SCAPE, advisory and the young seekers. Most notably, Mr. Rusydi served on the SG Youth Action Panel with the Singapore Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, as well as Alliance for Action with the Ministry of Manpower. He currently leads Reactor now. He's a CEO and also co-founder, Reactor School, with more than 200 high school and also university in Asia Pacific regions, and help the student to turn into the ideas into the companies. Thereafter, Reactor now venture help to syndicate investment in the led startup with average ticket size, I think it's 100,000 Singapore dollars, right, per team. So this is incredible. So he also engaged with many of work, professional certificate, venture capitals, advanced certificate training and assessments, HR certificate professionals, and also I noticed here Apple professional learning specialist. So we can get more information and what Reactor School can offer to us, and also maybe afterwards we can we will discuss about what we can share and also what we want to go together. What is the engagement that we can do together? So place and time, I will give it to you, Mr. Rusydi. So hopefully that via Zoom that you can explain, and we can also share your presentations. Time is yours.
Thank you so much, Pak Wahyudi. Okay, so just allow me to share my screen. Right, can you see my slides? Great. Yeah, so thank you so much, everyone, for this warm invitation. So what I'll share about today, very briefly, is about what we do with our students through our pre-incubator programs, and also give a context of some of the schools and the high schools that we work with across Asia Pacific, because we work with 200 of them. So just thank you so much for that warm introduction. Right, if you'd like to email me, feel free to drop me a note at rusydi@reactor.school. So previously, I used to be with the government in Singapore, Enterprise Singapore. So that's the statutory board that oversees all the startups as small and medium enterprises. And then now, I work together with a lot of universities to help our students to turn their ideas into companies. So this is an overview about Reactor. Right, we start off with Reactor School first, where we run the programs for the universities and high schools. And then we take the top students and we bring them through our incubator program. So the difference here is that we are not just a startup incubator, we are a talent incubator. What we realize is that not all students want to be founders. Some students want to be employee number 5 at Traveloka, employee number 15, right, at Bukalapak. And that's also a very important part about ecosystem development. And one of the trends that we've noticed is that a lot more of Gen Z students want to be investment analysts at venture capital firms. They may not necessarily want to start a startup, but they want to co-invest in a startup and help a startup to grow, right? So this is a trend that we've seen in Silicon Valley, and it's fast growing in Singapore and the region. You have Protege Ventures, which is Southeast Asia's first student-led venture capital fund. So these students pull money together and invest in other students. That's extremely seminal. You've got Rookie Fund in Hong Kong, and I think it's time, that we bring this to Indonesia as well. And then eventually, from the incubator program, this is where we bring our students to Reactor Ventures, and we syndicate what we call deals. So in this case, sometimes the money comes from angel investors, sometimes it comes from early stage venture capital firms. We work with 15 of them in the region, and this number is growing. The average ticket size that our students raise is between 50,000 to 100,000 Singapore dollars per startup team at the seed stage. So that's an overview about what Reactor does, and we hope to bring this entire ecosystem to University Bakrie as well. Right, so what I'd like to share about a bit today, it's very briefly, what is our definition of a startup? I'll talk about the Southeast Asian ecosystem, which is fast growing, who the key players are, where incubators lie in that, some of the trends we've noticed, and then finally, I'll share very quickly about our pre-incubator program and how this works, for our students. So the first things first, right, is what is a startup and how exactly do we build one? This is an actual question that was asked of our 12-year-olds in our national examination, right? So if anyone wants to try the answer, you can put it in the Zoom chat, right? Fill in the graph above. So how many gray triangles and white triangles are there in figure number 5? All right. Anyone wants to make a guess? You can put in the Zoom chat. I'm going to give you maybe 5 seconds. Okay. So some people still are drawing all that. So this is part A, right? And then in part B, the question was, find the total number of gray and white triangles for figure 250. Right? How are you going to do that? Right? How exactly are you going to find out the total number of triangles? You can draw it out. You can come up with a formula. You can use algebra. You can use deductive methods. And the thing here is that we're trying to get our students to have a change in mindset. Because when they go to school, they use a type of reasoning called causal reasoning. 1 + 1 = blank. There's one right answer. But when you work in a startup, you use a different type of reasoning called effectual reasoning. Right? Blank plus blank = 1. You know where you want to be. There are laws and frameworks you have to follow. But all of a sudden, there's not just one answer. There are multiple ways to get there. There's an infinite number of answers. Right? And a lot of students have a lot of difficulty making this change in mindset because there's no one right answer on how to solve a problem. So typically what we do, is that there will be some sort of facilitated hackathon to help students to be comfortable dealing with uncertainty. And then they would need to be able to have that confidence to share their ideas with the world. And this is what entrepreneurship education is all about. How do you get students to be comfortable with uncertainty? And if you look at the overview of the different levels, of entrepreneurship attributes, right, we realized that there were 5 key components, right, the elements of entrepreneurship attitude, and they happen to be, complete opposites to each other. So on one hand, you want an entrepreneur, a student entrepreneur, to have that grit and resilience, right, like fire, have that bias to action. But at the same time, you also want the student to be adaptable, right? He or she needs to have fluid intelligence. Can I take knowledge from one area and deploy it to another area? Right? And these are completely, the diametric opposites. And then if you look at the other pair between air and earth, you want a student to be idealistic and curious, but the entrepreneur also needs to be realistic and grounded, right? What can I do with my current resources, right? What's realistic for me to achieve? And what we notice is that what separates a good entrepreneur from a great entrepreneur is this 5th element, which is being autodidactic. So this means that the entrepreneur, the student, can learn without the need of a formal teacher. They are self-learners, right? An entrepreneur is not going to wait for someone to tell him or her, you need to study digital marketing. They're going to do it, right? If they have a problem with their code, they're going to learn how to pick up Python and Ruby on their own, right? So they're self-learners. And that's what we need our students to be, right? For them to be successful in the future. They need to be able to learn and unlearn and relearn. So, this is an example of one of our students that we graduated in Ho Chi Minh, right? It's a group of 18-year-olds, right? They're all girls. And then they built this mobile app to help students in Vietnam in the rural areas to learn about career development. And these are a group of 18-year-olds and they hacked this together in 3 days, right? And that's the type of bias to action that we want our students to do, right? We want them to learn how to solve problems and then launch out something that's sustainable, that's able to continue to grow. This is another example. So the guy that's second from the left, his name is Wei Jie. So he's a friend of mine. So Wei Jie started a social enterprise in Singapore called Forward Coffee. And they initially started out doing pop-ups. I think now they have got 4 or 5 stores. And the interesting thing about Forward Coffee is that they employ youths with both physical and mental, disabilities and helps them gain employment, right? And this is a great way to solve problems as well. You don't necessarily need to start a tech company that can raise venture funding. It's also important to start social enterprises, impact startups that can sustain and continue, to create jobs and help with social mobility. So we used to start off with this whole concept, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. But I think the future is construct ergo sum. I build, therefore I am. Right? We need to get our students to learn how to build and to build a better future, not just for themselves, but for the next generation. So this is our mission statement. We believe that the world's biggest problem is there are not enough young people solving the world's biggest problems. And entrepreneurship is a great way to talk about that. So we're talking about the definition of a startup. We're looking at a human institution that's designed to bring about something new under conditions of extreme uncertainty. Because, if you look at the definition of a startup, the startup doesn't know who its customers are. It doesn't have a validated business model. It doesn't have a product. And the moment it has all three, it is by definition no longer a startup, right? And we want our startups to grow to become MNCs. So, it goes through the 3 different stages, right? The students start off with putting in place structure, steps 1, 2, 3 on how they want to deliver value to their users. And then let's look at repeatability. How do I do steps 1, 2, 3 with customer A, steps 1, 2, 3 with customer B? And then eventually, right, you want them to think about scalability, right? Can I grow this in an exponential way? Can I increase my impact? Can I increase the value that I create to society? And that's what attracts venture funding. And we're trying to get our students to form scalable solutions that can sustain over time. So what we've noticed is that for our students, the inspiration behind their startup idea can come from various sources. It's not a linear process. So for some students, they start off with college, they work on a startup idea, they go through the incubator program that the university has. And if you're very lucky, they raise venture funding and they work on their startup idea even after they've graduated. Right. So usually, this comes from hackathons that they might take part in. They might go for an event and conference, and then they might pitch an event there. The second pathway that we've noticed is that some students will take up an internship when they're in college, but they may not have an idea that they're super excited about. Right. So they work in a startup first or a large tech company for 2-3 years. They build up savings, and then when they're in their workplace, they realize, hey, this is an idea that I want to work on. This is a problem I want to solve. And then they quit their job and then they launch their startup idea. And then you have a third pathway where students work on a startup, they work on an idea, the idea fails, they go back to get a job, build up savings for 2 years, and then go back to a second startup, which could be a better version of the first one. Right? So you notice here that there are different ways in which you can go through the startup route. And as a university, as an education institution, we need to make sure that our students are fully supported, both while they are in school as well as their alumni. Right? Because it takes a long gestation time for a startup to become, successful, right? So the startup journey is not linear. And this is what Reactor does. We don't just work with the students while they're in the school. We track them 5-10 years even after they've graduated. And it's very important that we collectively do that. So the second thing I want to share about is why Southeast Asia and why Asia Pacific. So this is the Asia Pacific Partners 2019 Internet Report. Right, in 2019, the GDP for Southeast Asia was 3.1 trillion. And that's a huge amount, right? We're going to become a very big economic bloc by 2030. But if you look at the ASEAN startup culture, Indonesia actually takes the top, right, compared to all the Southeast Asian nations. So these are our students who either want to be a small business owner or want to lead a tech startup while they are in school, immediately after school, or within 5 years of graduating, right? So it's a very, very positive number, and I think that's great that a lot more students want to take charge of their own livelihoods as well as their own careers. But what's interesting is that Indonesia has gone up 41 spots, right, in terms of the ease of doing business, right? So that's great. There's a lot more venture capital right now in Indonesia, and the possibilities are really big. And if you look at this report as well, 70% of the unicorns that will come out of Southeast Asia will be regional. So companies like Grab that work across Southeast Asia, but 30% of the unicorns will actually be Indonesia-focused platforms. So these are companies that will, have a strong local base in Indonesia. So companies like Gojek, Traveloka, Bukalapak, and then you've got our Sunicorns like Ruang Guru, as well as our Warung Pintar that are up and fast coming. If you look at the population of Southeast Asia, out of the 16 most populous cities, 5 of them are actually in Indonesia, right? So that shows how fast, Indonesia is growing and why we need to equip our students to be able to reach out to these opportunities. So these are some of my personal opportunities, which I think will be very big in Southeast Asia. Right, the first one is education and travel. We're doing a lot of virtual learning right now, but once the pandemic subsides, we're going to see a huge boom, right, in regionalizing across Southeast Asia. The second one is in fintech and social networks. So we see a lot more decentralized finance, Web 3.0 startups are coming out of Southeast Asia, and Gen Z actually does understand how to look at crypto and NFT. So it's a very interesting space. The third one is very important, I feel, e-waste and logistics. In Southeast Asia, we have a lot of mobile devices. There's a lot of rare earth metals that are stuck in all these mobile phones and all these laptops. So we need to learn how to extract this rare metal, right? And learn how to recycle it because it produces a lot of waste to the environment, right? Because if we keep throwing away a lot of this e-waste, it's going to be very bad for our future generations. And then the last two, agriculture and IoT. So we're already starting to see this in terms of food security. And of course, construction and real estate, right? Because we've got a rising middle class, and therefore we need to house them and help them have a better quality of living. So these are my personal thoughts, and these are areas which I think our students should consider quite deeply, right, as they build their startups. So who are the key players in the startup ecosystem, right? So incubators or accelerators, right, depending on how you look at it, falls under that third place there. So you've got students raising funds from friends and family. They might raise $1,000, $5,000, and then they might raise money from angels thereafter. So these are individuals who have extra cash. They could be accredited investors. They could also be, syndicating deals. And then you've got incubators, and these are the ones that typically work with students over a period of 3 months or 6 months, where you help the startup get to something called a minimum viable product, right? So this is the first product that's able to generate revenue. And that's where, we want to play in that space, right? We want to help our students get to their first major commercial product or their first commercial deal. And then, of course, you also have venture capital firms, right? And if you look at how the venture capital life cycle works, previously, it's always the standard 3-year invest, 6-year grow, and then 1-year harvest. But the average venture capital fund right now, has extended from 10 years to around 12 to 13 years. And we're starting to see a lot more VCs going into Indonesia, both from single family offices, as well as money around Asia Pacific that's moving towards the region. So why is this such an interesting asset class? It's because a typical VC fund, for example, that has $50 million might make 25 investments, right? The 1 million in the first 6 companies, 2 million in the next 16, 4 million in the last 3. And then if you look at it, a good number of these startups are going to die, right? They're not going to survive, or maybe they lose to competitors. But you will have 1 or 2 companies that are able to bring a significant amount of return, a 3 times or 10 times valuation, which pays off for the other startups that died, right? So within a standard fund, for example, you could have a 2.6 time return in this case. So it basically varies. But with more venture capital going into Indonesia, we're going to start to see a lot more tech companies, and the birth rates of startups also going to increase. So if you look at the 20 largest exits in Southeast Asia, right, Bukalapak is one of the biggest ones. And if you see, right, the startups that are most well-funded in Southeast Asia, right, I'm sure you all can make the guess who is the winner for Indonesia. That's probably going to be, yes, Gojek for Indonesia. Right. A lot more of these companies are going to come up, and within actually in the last 9 months of 2021, there are more unicorns that have been birthed compared to the last 3 years, right? And this is just basically, in the past 9 months. So it's a very exciting time for our students to be in this space. Right, so just quickly, some trends that we've noticed in agri-tech, for example. This is health tech, Doctor Anywhere. There's a lot of telemedicine that we're starting to see in Southeast Asia. We've got exactly the same thing in Malaysia. So this is BookDoc, right, which does telemedicine as well. And then we're starting to see a lot of companies in mental health space. So Intellect, which is Y Combinator backed in Singapore. So it's also run by a student startup. And then in Malaysia, you have Naluri, right, which works with corporates. So that's what we've seen in health tech. And then you've got edutech as well. So this is Marcoding, which is in Indonesia. So helping high school students in marginalized areas to learn coding skills, 21st century skills, which is really important for social mobility. Then in the Philippines, you've got InvestEd, which helps students to get micro funding for university programs, right? So they run an ISA, an income share agreement. So if you can't afford to pay for university fees, you can take a micro loan first, and then you pay back this fintech company. And then you've got Doyobi in Singapore, which is helping schools to integrate STEM, because sometimes educators are, very hard pressed for time. They don't have enough resources. This is a tech startup that helps with that. And then if you look at agri-tech, you've got companies like BoomGrow. So they have a very special system called the Plant and Forget. It's just a box, you put it under the light. It's a completely waterless system. So they can grow plants without the need for water, right? Of course, you've got Tani Hub as well, which is one of the more popular ones in Indonesia, helping farmers with buying and selling. And then even in Thailand, right, we're starting to see a lot more alternative meat, right? So can you make meat from plant-based sources? Because Thailand actually does have a lot of agriculture and a lot of livestock. So that brings me to the last part I wanted to share today. How exactly do we put this together, and how do we help our students? We do this through the pre-incubator program that we have. And that's where we help our students to make their first dollar of revenue and or to fundraise. And typically this is done over a 12-week region. So over the 12 weeks, it's a self-paced program, which means that the students can go as slow or as fast as they need. It's a part-time program, so we expect the students to continue staying in school and working through their coursework, right? And then this could be done either over the summer or even during the university period, right? Curriculum time, right? And we expect the students to spend more than just, the curriculum time here, because they've got to interview their users, they've got to do meetings with clients, they have to build their first working prototype, so on and so forth. So the eligibility for here is that this is the intermediate program, right? At the point in time when they go into the pre-incubator, they should have an idea that they want to work on. They should have a team, right? And then what we do is that we will assign them something called an RM, or relationship manager. So very similar to private banking, every startup will have their own RM, and this RM is a senior founder who will journey with them over the 3 months or so. So it's split up into 3 sprints. The first sprint is about testing desirability. Do people actually want my product? The second sprint is on feasibility. Can I build it? Can I prototype it, right? Who's going to pay for it? And then finally, we're talking about commercial viability, right? So I need to plan my projections. I need to make sure that I can raise the amount of money I need to get to the next level, right? For me to scale up the business. Yeah, so these are just some of the samples. We're giving the students all the legal, templates they need, including the guides. And then the RMs will make sure that they're delivering on their respective homework. So at the end of the entire 12 weeks, there will be a demo day, right? They could either join the Fundraise Track or the Showcase Track. The Fundraise Track are for students who are looking to raise their first 50,000, 100,000 in venture funding. The Showcase Track are for students who are building not-for-profits or social enterprises or impact startups. They may not necessarily need funding, but they still need to showcase themselves to get business partners, as well as to get support from the general community. So the next one that we're actually holding is this Saturday. So feel free, to drop by. We did this again in June. I think we'll have close to 100 to 150 guests this Saturday. So we invited our students from all over Asia Pacific. And I think it's important for our students to learn how to network, right? So to work with the students in Thailand, to work with the students in Singapore and Vietnam, so that they can expand their companies. Right. Once again, it's tailored and flexible, right? So it's a 3-month period, and then they get an RM. And during this 3 months, this is where the RM will work with the startup on a goal that they have identified. So maybe the startup says, I want to make the first $10,000 in revenue through B2B sales. So we'll work with them to ensure that they're able to hit that milestone. And then finally, after the entire program is over, we will give the students the option about whether they want to continue with us. So if they want to continue with Reactor, we ask them to pledge 2% equity to us so that we will sit on their cap table for the long term. So 1% goes to Reactor, the other 1% goes to the assigned RM. This to ensure that the RM and Reactor will continue to support the startup even after they've graduated from the university, so on and so forth. But this is completely the choice of the students. If they don't want us on their cap table, that's perfectly fine. But we want to let them know that this is an option if they want to work with us over the next 5 to 7 years, because most startups take 7 to 8 years to go to the IPO level. Yeah, with that, thank you so much for listening to me. I hope you found it useful. If you'd like the slides, you could either scan the QR code. Alternatively, feel free to drop me a note. So that's Rusydi@reactor.school. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Mr. Rusydi. It's very inspiring for us to show, to get information how it works in the Reactor School and how to help the students, and also not only student, I think, also our alumni, right? So it's quite a broad range of participants, I think. And we open for the questions from our audience here. So maybe raise your hand or just open your mic. So directly to Mr. Rusydi. Please. Pak Budi, silakan.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
Pak Wahyudi and Pak Rusydi. Thank the excellent presentations. I think we just established a MOU, and what would be the next step for our students? For example, I'm teaching a kewirausahaan class this semester, and I have 9 groups of potential clients, I would say, in the kelompoks. They propose some very good business model canvas, lean canvas, and discipline entrepreneurship canvas for these classes. And I believe I added in system dynamics to evaluate the strategies of this business model canvas. It is very interesting, and I'm keen to see how my students can join these partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Budianto. That's a great question.
Yeah.
The 2 things you can do straight away is, if they are free this Saturday, please invite them for the Global Demo Day.
Right, I would do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're inviting all our
I
students
will
from
invite
Asia
my
Pacific.
students to attend these global meetings. Yes.
Yes. I think the second thing that we can do, I think we've already mentioned, is also that we will be sponsoring students to the junior VC course that's happening next year. So this is to train students to be investment analysts. Why it's important for the university is because these 2 selected students will help your 9 teams to raise funding, right? So anytime your 9 teams say like, hey, I need some help. I want to bring my startup to Thailand because, Thailand has a client there, right? We also have students in Thailand that will assist them, right, in crossing borders. So I think building this relationship is really important. The other thing that we can do is that we can sit down individually with the 9 teams to see whether they are ready either to come about the pre-incubator program, or if, let's say, they are slightly more advanced, we help them straight away with the fundraising, right? So it depends on whether they are already generating revenue or not.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited to work with the 9
Very
teams.
excited.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Especially for this 18th. I think it's a good opportunity. I will let my students this afternoon. I will teach class.
Okay.
And I will forward this information in more eloquent way. I think Pak Wahyudi will help us to
of course.
Yeah.
We will organize
it.
entrepreneurship class. So maybe from Pak Budi and also from the other lecturers, we will keep informed how we will work with the Reactor School, because well, we need to well inform to the students. Sometimes they don't get what it means, right? So sometimes it's confused between how to create or joining the startup, or this is something else, right? So this is sometimes confused with the student. But anyway, we do this event today, so to make sure that all the stakeholders, us, for instance, from the lecturers, also understand what we want to achieve. Thank you, Pak Budi.
Thank you, Pak.
And maybe another questions from the audience, please. From Pak Dharma, please, Pak Dharma. You have something to say, or in Bahasa? Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think the first one is congratulations to Bakrie and Reactor. You are different from us, from Trisakti, and your foundational course integrated with your business incubator. Then the next step is you're going to scale up. And on the other hand, we separate this one from foundational course with business incubator, and we put that one, the scale up, within the advanced class. So this one is faster. And I think that's one, the bottom line, that we are from Trisakti using LearnWise from Watwani Foundation. And the ones that I think one of my friends here practices in the past. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Pak Dharma.
Thank you so much. Terima kasih, Pak Dharma.
Terima kasih.
Yes, Pak Dharma, we are also part of the Watwani also foundations, but Watwani goes to more social entrepreneurship, I think, and we open for all collaboration, because in the future we cannot live alone. So we have to work together and get mutual benefit together. So everything that comes to Universitas Bakrie, particularly for business incubators, we are open from all stakeholders, not only from incubations, right? So everyone are welcome. So okay, next. Thank you, Pak Dharma. Another questions?
You're welcome. Okay.
Another question from the audience. So maybe my final questions for keeping the time. So my question is to reactors. Besides that, we have today our mutual understanding together. So some of the students that I contact and met personally, they're really keen to visit Singapore, hopefully next year. So what they should prepare? So what they should at least for their skill or for their profile. So this is very important to us also to guide them, so that and hopefully they can also join this program. Please, Mr. Rusydi.
Thank you so much, Pak Wahyudi. In fact, that was what I was going to say next, which is really looking forward to inviting everyone to come visit us. Maybe this upcoming summer in 2022, inshallah. Once the virtual travel lanes, the vaccinated travel lanes fully open. Yeah, I think for the students, right, the first thing that they need to do is to understand what their personal strengths are and what they want to do after they graduate from university, right? Sometimes when you ask a student, they'll be like, oh, I want to start a company, I want to start a business. Then you ask them why, they can't answer why, right? They'll think like, oh, my friend is starting a business and this is very cool, this is very fun, I want to do it. And then you tell them, it's actually a very painful process, right, to build and maintain a company, and they're not sure about this. So helping the students to first understand their why is really important. And then, you can guide them in terms of which pathway do they want to be, right? Do they want to be a founder? Do they want to be early employee? Do they want to be an investment analyst? And sometimes the students are not sure. They might start as a founder first, but then after they start a company, they realize, actually, I prefer to be an employee instead. And that's okay, because for a lot of students, they are trying to discover themselves. So what we do as educators is that we ask them to, explore their interests, because the students don't know what they don't know, right? So maybe we'll ask them to read up technology blogs. We'll ask them to prepare their LinkedIn profile, right? Because when we bring them to Singapore, we'll be introducing them to a lot of startups, right? And then some of these startups are hiring. And if they don't have a LinkedIn profile, they lose out on the opportunity to get an internship, right? Or if they haven't thought about that idea, when the investment analysts that they meet talk to them, they're not able to pitch their idea. So it's a lost opportunity. So a lot of preparation needs to happen before that. And this comes from the students being self-aware, right? So what we do as educators, right? We help them with their pitch deck. I think that's important if they want to be a founder. If they want to be an early employee, we help them with their LinkedIn profile, right? If they want to be an investment analyst, they can start reading up online, or they can apply for the junior VC course, so on and so forth. And then what happens during the trip itself is that, we will give the itinerary ahead of time, right? Usually if the students come to Singapore, it's a week, Sunday to Thursday, then on Friday, they want to go to Universal Studios or something like that. All right, we'll leave it to them, or not, maybe they want to network with the startups on Friday. But it's important that the students know what they want out of the trip, right? If they want to be founders, then this trip is for them to either find business clients or to find investors here in Singapore. If they want to be early employees, then this trip is for them to, ask the founders for an internship. And I think what we'll do is that we will prepare the students together with Pak Wahyudi, and the rest of the team at U Bakrie, to make sure that before they come to Singapore, they have all this homework done. Yeah, so that they make the best use of the opportunity. Yeah. Thank you so much for that question.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That is the most frequent question to me. So that's why I asked this question to you.
So my recommendation to the team, the students, is to spend less time on TikTok and spend more time on LinkedIn.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that is also the fact, right? I mean, what happened in most of young or youth actually for using the social media is a correct social media that they can also grow with the what they are really want to do, right? So I 100% agree with you that we have to make sure that what they really want to do, right? So sometimes they don't know what to do, or they don't know what they don't know, right? So this is also the problem. So sometimes we just give the inspired story or something like that. So, but in the end, the decision by themselves. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Rusydi Khairul, for your sharing, and this is inspired us to work further together, and hopefully we can start by starting in next year, right? In January, we can also work together, so we can prepare all those things and prepare for the joining program. Okay, thank you very much for giving us this webinar. So I will give it back this time to our MC, Grace.
Thank you so much.
I'll back to you, Grace.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wahyudi, for moderating us. And once again, thank you very much to our speaker, Mr. Rusydi Khairul. That's very, very inspiring presentation. And I couldn't agree more with your final statement that young generation must spend less time on TikTok. That's on point. Thank you so much. And yeah, we finally come to the end of today's agenda. Before we close, once again, I thank you very much for all participants. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your kind attention. And yeah, see you on the next event. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
So we are prepared for the next step.
Keep stay healthy.
Yes, healthy.